Morning, everyone. This is Aaron with Solitude Springs Farm and Vineyard in Interior, Alaska. Just thought I'd take a little bit of time this morning to let you know what's going on the farm. Things are starting to pick up. It's still snowing outside and pretty cold. But inside we have seeds we're getting started, grape cuttings that we've received and are going to start rooting pretty soon. And so I thought I'd go through some of the things that we've gotten in the last couple of weeks and just kind of do an unboxing of sorts. So these are some cuttings from germplasm in Geneva, New York. This is a rather large caned variety apparently, or just some bullwood that they gave me. That doesn't root the greatest, but I think I can still get quite a bit of propagation off of that. It's a pure Riparia grapevine, so it's a wild vine, but it has relatively low acid compared to other Riparias, which are like so acidic that you almost can't eat them. We ordered a couple that were, let's see, I'll get these open. Let's see what this one is here. This one is, okay, so this is another Riparia. This is from North Dakota. It's a female, one that we tried to root last year and weren't successful at doing it. It seemed to have problems rooting it the normal way, the way that we've been doing it in peroxide and water. So this year what we're going to try and do is get it to sprout off of these buds and then stick this like right here. If it buds out right here, sprouts out here, we're going to take this and cut it off here and stick that whole thing in a pot with potting mix in a humid chamber so that it doesn't, so that the leaves don't dehydrate the cutting, and then see if we can get it to root. We were successful in doing that last year that way. For some reason, certain ones, these Riparias, if you stick the bottom in water, the top leaves out. There doesn't appear to be any connection between the two. I'm not sure what's going on. So we're going to kind of short circuit that, get these things to bud out enough, and then just stick the whole bud that already has a shoot in the ground and see if it will root. Like I said, we did that last year successfully. This is, oops, two of them. This one here is, so this is a variety from Russia. It's supposed to be, well, they said it was Betulifolia, which is an interesting grape. The leaves are actually three. They're not just lobed. They're actually, you almost might call them, now I can't think of the word, but multi-leaved. Each leaf consists of three different parts. It's kind of an interesting looking leaf on it. But the Geneva germplasm reclassified it as a Riparia, so we'll see. It does have pretty early now I can't think of the word. Periderm formation, so we're going to see if that's, because that's one of our issues up here, is getting the periderm to form in the fall before the frost comes and kills the green plant back. So here's another one. Let's see what this is. This is, I have to wrap them in the damp towels because they will dry out in the refrigerator while I'm waiting. So this is HP1. This is the one we had last year. We tried. Again, this is one of those that we stuck the bottoms. They didn't give me much bottom here. What I'll probably end up doing is cutting the very bottom off because they're pretty long. So I can cut the very bottom off and give me a longer portion of internode here to root out of. But anyway, this is one of them last year that we weren't able to get to root. We put the bottom in water. It started to leaf out, and then all the leaves wilted, which normally what would happen is the leaves would feed the bottom, send out roots, and the thing would turn into a plant. But they didn't work on this variety last year. So this is one of the earliest to form periderm in Geneva. So that's why we're getting those. We're really going for the earliness of periderm formation, in other words, hardening off in the fall, because like we've said before, these don't harden off early enough in the fall for us. So if we get some that do, we're going to try and include those genetics in crosses that we do. This is RA66-8, another one that has very early or potentially early periderm formation. This is a female here, so they would have to ripen the fruit outside, which, you know, we may end up having to put these in pots because I don't think they'll make it at all close enough to ripening the fruit and producing viable seeds. But if we pot them and bring them inside to ripen the fruit, we probably will get something off them. And the last two should be hybrids that are already, they're not wild. Oh, no, this is wild here. Okay, so I missed one. Someplace I missed one. This is this is a Montana riparian. The other two females that I had were from North Dakota. And this is Montana. So these are all the North Dakotas, the Montanas. They're all hardy to extremely cold temperatures, 60, 70 below. Under the right conditions, of course, that means that they have sufficient time in the fall to harden off and prepare for winter, which we often don't have. So they're not. I would guess that they're probably not going to be quite as hardy here. Our first ones to trial are out in pots right now. They hardened off several internodes last year. Oh, there are two here. Okay. And the canes look good so far when the snow covered them. Of course, they're completely covered in snow now. So we'll go out this spring, see how well they did over winter. I think one of them's going to be doing pretty well because the wood's really nice looking. Okay, so this one is Severny, and this is a Polish/Russian variety. This actually is a wine grape in some parts of the world. Pretty early to ripen, pretty early to shut down in the fall. This is in our C16, which is a Canadian variety that we have. This crossed with a wild riparia. It's quite hardy for Canadian standards, minus 40. Of course, that particular vine doesn't do very well here. It does well in the cross, not this one, but the cross. Does very well in Scandinavia. I've got a person in Finland that I follow that it does very well, although it it does harden off late in the fall, and that's my problem here is that it doesn't harden off for us. So there's no wood formed when in the fall, and in the spring it's all completely dead. So, all right. So this is one that we requested. It's a sibling of Bei Chun, which did very well in the fall. Typical Amarensis cross, hardened off nicely in the fall, and grows really vigorously up here. This one is Bei Hong, and it is, interestingly, these shoots are not nearly as thick as Bei Chun's shoots that I got. So, I mean, Bei Chun just shoots out these, I mean, they're like massively thick shoots, and also has very thick roots. But anyway, so that's that one. Another one, again, we're looking for that earliness in the fall to form the wood so that it can make it through the winter without freezing any green tissue. Shutting down at the right time in terms of leaf drop. Bei Chun was completely leafless last year within the first week of October, which is good. Okay, so those are all from Geneva. We're going to take one of those in a little bit and prep it for our peroxide and water treatment for rooting. But I want to go through a few more that we got. So those are, let's see, so here we are, right? And so these are somewhat like for kicks and giggles, because they're known varieties in this country, popular varieties in the Midwest. And I've grown them before, never on the terraces, so that's the whole thing now. So we've gone through all these years of growing grapevines in pots, in a field location, and now we're moving them all out to the terraces. And each has its completely own set of conditions. In fact, I finally heard someone give me a recommended temperature range for the root zone. And that is a minimum of 55 to 60 degrees. And our soil temperature here in the field, in the flat field, is barely reaches 55 at the end of July. So way too cold. Terraces not the same. I mean, they're up to, let's see, last year they were up to 60 degrees at 8 inches deep by, I want to say, don't have the graph, but before June. I believe it stayed 60 degrees or higher all the way from like May 28th through August 5th, something like that. It remained 59 to 60 degrees or higher. So that's months of time that these things can grow roots. And I think they will out on the terraces. But at the same time, the terraces dry out real fast. They have to be watered. They're difficult to maintain because they tend to slump. I'm afraid to put grass on them because I'm afraid that's going to shadow the ground and protect it from the sun's rays, which is really what warms them up. And then in the winter, as we found out this year, if there's no snow, the terraces get very, very cold in the soil. So here's one, John Viola. These were from a private individual in Oregon. I've ordered from them, the family, for a number of years. Very high quality stuff. I mean, very high quality stuff. And but anyway, they have a lot of the Minnesota varieties. This one actually is from New Hampshire, a wild cross between Labrusca and Riparia that is quite hardy. And so that's kind of exciting to get it back in here. It was also, they did a study in North Dakota after the quote-unquote polar vortex, which I have to tell everybody, it's like, your polar vortex is our winter, so I don't really want to hear, oh my gosh, it's so cold. Yeah, well, deal with it. Anyway, after the polar vortex down there several years ago, they went out and they sampled out of 40 different varieties. And John Viola was one of the few that actually, it had, I want to say, 85% success. So 85% of the vines grew as you typically would expect a grapevine to grow after those. There were only six varieties that actually didn't either not sprout in the spring or die halfway through the summer. And this was one of them. So pretty hardy thing. So anyway, then we have Lacrosse. This is a later one, late ripening one, but it does harden off wood fairly well. Again, these are really just for the genetics in them. Because they've already got the hardiness factor in there, crossing these with Amarensis to try and get the wood to harden off earlier, that kind of thing is what I'm looking at. Swenson Red, a wonderfully tasting grape, not very hardy, although it did fairly well for me. The first year I had it here, I had gotten it from an East Coast nursery. And of course, it was in the ground. It was in the field, though. So the field location, flat surface. It's on an angle, but there's no terraces on it. So there's no roughness to the surface to actually allow the sun to warm the soil. So the soil was very cold, and it never emerged last year, so it's dead. But I think out on the terraces it will stay alive. This is Minnesota 78. This is a cross done by University of Minnesota. In 30s, 40s, 20s, 30s, 40s, something like that. That they never named, but Elmer Swenson used it a lot in his crosses. It is, let's see, we have ES 1553, which is an open pollination of this. And so this one just got, this Minnesota 78 was just pollinated by something. I have no idea what it was. 1553 does phenomenal here for coming out of Elmer Swenson's work, which most of his don't do that well up here, but 1553 does extremely well. It's a male, though, so no fruit, but you can graft onto it pretty easily. So, and then St. Croix. So that's a reasonable wine grape for the upper Midwest. Not a lot of people would say, well, it's not vanilla for quality, but no, but it's really good for one that will survive 40 below. And I think all these in here, well, with the exception of Swenson Red, that's only good to 30 below. Swenson That's the giant viola, and I think the others are all. Lacrosse is good to 25 below. But it's a sister to St. Pepin, and St. Pepin did very well last fall. So anyway, again, just for genetics, just to throw them in there, they've already got the hardiness factor. We can get them to ripen earlier and much earlier for most of these, and then shut down early enough in the fall. They'll do something. Okay, so the last one I wanted to do was, and this is something we just cut off last year. This is Baltica. We took a green cutting, tried to root it inside, and of course it was too late in the fall, so it ended up shutting down instead of rooting. And so we just threw it in the fridge, hoping that the fungus would not overtake it before we could get it to root out this year. And we'll see what happens, because it has been slowly, fungus is getting to it. We've got to get it out. See, it's starting to turn. It's turning black on the top. So, may not happen. Iffy. Okay, so what we got to do, we're going to take this and we're going to put, oh, no, it's not. Okay, good. This is the end that we had in peroxide and water last year. It's black, but I've cut into it and it's green in the middle. The black just formed because that's what peroxide does to the outside. But we're going to put this in some water, see if we can't get these, I hope these buds are so good, to bud out, and then that's hopefully a propagation of Baltica. We've got more wood outside on Baltica to cut and propagate this year, so we're hoping to get about 10 or 12 Baltica vines, new ones this year, to add to our one that we have right now. Of all the varieties that we have, Baltica is the most likely to ripen up here, and I'm almost positive, 100%, maybe 99%, that Baltica will ripen most years into a grape that can be either eaten fresh or made into a rosé wine. It doesn't make a very good red wine. But okay, so that's those. Other things that we're doing on the farm right now, we've got a lot of overcast this year, so our electricity production is down compared to last year, so we're not able to run the heat mat yet. I wanted to start some flower seeds. We've already started our ranunculus because they don't need a lot of heat. We will be starting Bupleurum in stock pretty soon. I need to put them on a heat mat for at least a 24-hour period, though, so we might just bite the bullet and have to use a generator for that. And then Eryngium. We have several Eryngium plants, and some went to seed, so we pulled some of that seed, and we're going to be trying to start some Eryngium. I love that flower. It's just a cool blue. Actually, most of the plant turns blue. And then we've got snow we've got to start moving around because it is getting to be that time where we need to melt a bunch of it for 2,000 gallons of water. And so we're going to start moving that around after I get done snow blowing the road again. Coming up, we'll be doing a current pruning demo, probably late March, early April. Depending on how much snow we have right now, we have about 23 inches out there. And so that's not too bad. We could dig out the bushes to prune them, which I almost have to for black currants. They're always budding out already in the bottom by the time the snow melts. So we may have to pull those, scoop the snow away from some of the black currants to prune those and show you guys how to do that. And then we'll be doing some grapevine pruning this year. Woohoo! Not much. I know it's like almost the first year. Arthur gives us something to prune to every year, but it's mostly dead that I cut off. And this year I think we're going to get a little bit of we're going to be able to cut into the vines and see green. This is so exciting. They need to be green, not brown. All right, so we're going to start this preparing for rooting a cutting. So we're going to do some peroxide, which I usually just use the lid of the jar. Maybe about a teaspoon. And then I'm going to put a cup of water. Well, actually what we got to do, we got to see how much we have on Severny here. I'm just excited to get that one. I tried it a couple of years ago, and it failed because I was using my old method of a heat mat, and I had such a hard time rooting things with a heat mat. But now that we use the peroxide and water, we tend to have a lot better results. Unless it's a North Dakota or Montana riparian, and they don't like rooting that way. Nope, that's not the one I want. Okay. Put on the skin. Okay. I'll rewrap these when I get done. Let's see. So someplace in here. Is that it? That might be it. Nope, that's bam. Okay, it was beside that one. So we're getting closer. You just don't. Everybody's like, well, why are you getting all these varieties? Because I'm like, you just don't know how they're going to perform. You can't tell. Even two that have the same identical genetic background, or not identical, well, I mean, same parents. Come on, where is it? Same parents. Nope. I'm going to end up going through all these to get the one I want. Even those with the same parents act differently up here. And, I mean, I've had, you know, Bei-chun is a cross of Vitis amarensis and Vitis vinifera, or, there it is right there, okay. So, amarensis, which is a wild grape, crossed with a Vitis vinifera, which is a European grape, which has absolutely no hardiness when it comes to up here. And, you know, most of those don't do very well up here. The vinifera don't shut down in the fall. They stay green, and then it freezes and kills them back. And that one, that doesn't happen. So, I mean, even crosses I've had in here of vinifera and amarensis, they just don't shut down in the fall, but Bei-chun does. It's fantastic. Okay, so we're going to, yeah, these are all. So what I'm going to end up doing is cutting it off probably down here so that I get enough of this to stick in the water. I could take the bottom bud off, but I don't know how many of these buds are viable, and I really don't want to sample. Normally you would go through your vineyard and sample to see what kind of bud survival rate there is. If there's 20%, if you do go out there and sample and find that 20% of the buds are dead, and you leave 20% more, see this one right here. You leave 20% more. Well, I can't go through and do that because that means cutting into the buds and you destroy them. And these are from Geneva. This vine is not used to Geneva. This vine is more used to places, it's bred for places where it doesn't thaw in the winter. Like here. And so when there is a thaw, that can bring this thing out of dormancy very early, and then it kills the buds because the buds are no longer hardy. Here, that's great because as soon as it warms up here, it's got to get growing. We don't have a long enough season for it to sit there and go, oh, I think I'll wait another week. So, let me go ahead and, oops. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to just cut off the bottom part, and then I'm going to slit the bark through so that the peroxide makes it to the cambium. And that, I mean, the water actually comes up through the bottom of the shoot. It doesn't come through the slits that I make, but the slits allow the cambium to come in contact with the highly oxygenated water. My theory. There is something to back it up, but the high oxygen content then triggers callus formation, and callus formation is necessary for root formation on grapes. Not all things, but on grapes it is. So, I'm going to cut the bottom of this off. Again, this is what I go through to prep my cuttings in the spring. Let's see. I'll lose it. Just laying it across the floor. Okay, so yeah, so it's, I don't know if you can see that or not. They're kind of green. It's kind of green. Some are not very bright green. Others are extremely bright green. But other varieties. Okay, so I'm going to just take the knife, and I'm going to slit down from the node. Try to make it straight and longitudinal. I do 3, just because that's about all you can really do. Otherwise, the bark gets to be splintery, and then it's just a mess. Okay, so I think that's 3 of them. And then, so I look in here, and I say, okay, there's the peroxide. And it's not very bubbly, so, and I know that thing's not clean. This is new stuff. New-ish stuff, I should say. So let's see what happens. It doesn't need a lot of oxygen, but it does oxygenate the water. And most people would say, well, that just leaves the water pretty quickly in. Okay, it's bubbling in there. All right, so then we're going to put some water in. Regular tap water. And then we put it in and fill it until it's just below that bottom bud. You don't want to cover the bottom bud, because that'll cause it to rot. Okay, so we probably don't want to go any farther than that. It's just below the bud. Actually, it looks like it. Yeah, I don't want that high. You don't want it on the bud. It'll just rot the bud, and then you'll have mold growing on it. Okay. Anyway, that water won't drop much. So if it doesn't seem very deep, not a big deal right now. Okay, so anyway, that's what I'm going to do for that. Again, in about a month or so, we'll be out pruning currants, and probably do a live demo on that, and then we'll do some grape pruning and take some videos of that. So that's all we got for now. Hope you are enjoying the weather better than we are. I have to go out and snowblow today again. And we'll talk to you later. Okay, I can't get this to come up again. Oh. Gosh. This is so annoying because I can't get it to come up here anymore. it to stop. I can't get it to stop. It won't display. It's not displaying. Oh. I don't know how to click that. It won't stop. It won't stop. I don't know how to pull up. It won't stop the video. How do you freaking stop the... It pulls that away. Command Control Escape. Command Control Escape.